Hey guys, welcome to this next episode of the King Lincoln Show. Today I want to talk about some more stuff that happened when I was growing up and just some more stuff that affected me. And it's kind of leading up to something really bad that happened that kind of fucked my whole life and career up. I don't really have a career now, but yeah, it fucked up any semblance of a burgeoning career or some shit like that. But yeah, I'm going to tell you about a bunch of stuff that kind of led up to it. So, when I was growing up, one of my big things was being creative. So, when I was a little kid, before I could write or anything, I really liked drawing pictures. I used to draw just like crazy little cartoons and stuff, and come up with weird little characters and shit. And because my house, like our household was really like toxic. It was like a shitty environment, like I've talked about before, and how our parents would like shout and fight and stuff. There was always like blow ups and arguments and carryings on. My best technique was just to hide in my room. And I would just like hide in my room and like draw pictures and stuff. So I got like quite good at drawing pictures and cartoons and stuff. Um, in hindsight, I don't think I was amazing at it, but for my age and stuff, like got pretty good at it. And then when I got a bit older and I learned to write and write well enough to actually express ideas and stuff, I started getting pretty good at writing and I started liking that. And I had like a whole kind of fantasy world that I would write about. And yeah, I had all this stuff, all this world building stuff with the different races and the history and the cosmology and all this stuff about this world. I wasn't really good at actually finishing stuff, like finishing like, okay, this is something that someone's actually gonna read, and here it is, start to finish. But I was doing a lot of this kind of world building stuff, like talking about this like crazy fantasy world I was creating, which was very, very detailed and involved. Um, Not as much as say like Tolkien made up whole languages for his world. I wasn't quite that detailed, but it was pretty detailed. Um, and another thing was when I was like fairly young, like in kind of started in primary school and then into high school, I realized that I could be funny and I could kind of like perform in front of people and like make them laugh and stuff. And even before we had like a proper like a drama class, like theater class or whatever, I had a few opportunities to do that, and I was like, wow, I can actually like get in front of people and like make them laugh and stuff, and kind of express myself in a way. And I think a big thing for me has been like I'm not good at expressing myself and being myself in daily life. I feel like daily life is like not an adequate context for me to like properly express myself. I feel kind of repressed in daily life because there's all these like rules and principles and social mores you have to abide by in daily life that to me it kind of represses me. It represses like a lot of my actual self or actual interests and instincts and stuff. And I bet it does for a lot of people, but it really, really does for me. But I always felt like I really needed an outlet, like drawing, writing, like acting, like theater, and just being weird. I was always just being weird, and sometimes like my parents and family and stuff were like, why are you being so fucking weird? You're like, you're so handsome, like why are you making these weird faces and making weird noises and shit? I just be weird, like I would act like a weird monster or animal, just like making weird faces and noises and just being like, yeah, yeah. Because I found life absurd. I found the entirety of life kind of meaningless and pointless and stupid and absurd. I found everything so like stupid and contradictory and hypocritical, and I didn't really know what to do with it. And yeah, I liked being weird, and I had these things like writing and acting and drawing that were like outlets that let me kind of get some shit out and express myself, I guess, in a way that I couldn't in daily life. And I wasn't good at daily life. Like probably other people can do it through like conversations and relationships and different stuff like that, but some of that I wasn't that great at. So I felt like kind of repressed. But yeah, the bad thing that happened with that was this stuff was great as an outlet. It like did something for me like in an internal sense. But from way back when I was really young, my parents, like my dad, my mom, like other people too, teachers, family, they would all go on about how talented I was. Like, oh, it's so talented. It's so talented. Like, even when I was really young, my dad, I would remember, would go on about my drawings and be like, oh, yeah, he's so good at drawing. His drawings are so detailed. You know, he even does the shoelaces and everything on the like guys' shoes and all this. Like, this is when I was really young, and that was an impressive thing. And with everything, they'd put like pressure on me. Um, you know, when I got into writing, when I got into acting, and I was never into film acting, by the way. I was into theater, and I didn't want to be some like Hollywood movie star or some shit. It was nothing to do with that, and it was nothing to do with being famous or anything. I loved theater, I loved writing, I loved music later on, and I loved being creative just for its own sake. It gave me something, and I loved doing it. But they kind of fucked it up, and it got fucked up in my mind because they would put pressure on me like, oh, you're going to achieve something with this. You're going to be great with this. This is going to be your career. You're going to be a writer. You're going to be an actor. You're so talented, blah, blah, blah. And it became kind of implicitly like, you have to do this stuff. Like, it's on you to do this stuff kind of thing. And it really affected me. Like from a young age, this shit was kind of pushed on me. Whereas for me, it was just an outlet and something I enjoyed and something that like did something for me internally, if you get what I mean. Um, and I feel like my parents especially, they gave me what I call like conditional love or like conditional approval. It's not just as if you're just fine how you are, like naturally, whoever you are, you're fine, you're valuable, we love you, we care about you. It's the opposite of that. It's like, well, if you do certain things, we approve of you. And if you do certain other things or like fail to do certain things, we don't like you. We disapprove of you. We don't love you. Like we're mad at you. And this was reflected in and compounded by the religion I was taught, the version of religion, Christianity I was taught, which is very much if you believe this certain story and abide by these certain principles, you go to heaven, and that's wonderful. But if you don't, you go to hell and you burn forever in unimaginable pain and anguish. And once you're there, there's no way out of it. That's it. I was taught that from an extremely young age. Like as soon as I could understand those words and concepts, or even before I could really understand those concepts, I was taught that stuff. So yeah, it was really conditional approval. Like if I acted a certain way, my parents would approve of me. If I acted a different way, they would be very disapproving and like kind of punishing, like emotionally punishing, verbally punishing, all that type of shit. So yeah, I really felt like pressure with this creative stuff. It's like if you succeed in doing something impressive with this stuff, then you're okay. And if you don't, you're not. You fucking suck. And it became this category of like pressure and fear and obligation in my mind And it kind of poisoned the outlets and pursuits that I liked, that I loved so much. It gave it this tainted quality that kind of fucked it up. It wasn't just for getting something internal out of it and enjoying it anymore. There was this other like toxic aspect to it. It's like this pressure to perform, this pressure to achieve and succeed. Whereas in the real world, real industries of entertainment and all that shit and creativity, like those are fucking brutal, cutthroat industries that it's incredibly difficult to succeed at. Like, imagine trying to become like an actor or an author or something, or a musician or whatever. Those are extremely difficult careers to succeed with, and only a very small percentage of people do it. And it's not really under your control so much. Like, there's, connections and timing and like life circumstances and all this stuff that you can't control that influences what happens with your career. So it's really not fair to put pressure on someone with that type of shit. And it's also just not a good thing to do in general. You should just like love and value people, especially your kids, just like pretty much unconditionally. Don't treat people one way, if they achieve something, and treat them a different way if they don't, or if they act a different way. So yeah, I had that stuff going on, and it might not sound like much, it might sound pretty subtle or not dramatic, but that really got into my psyche from a really young age. And my dad was always talking about that and being like, oh, you could be a famous this, you could be a famous that, you could do this, you could do that. And it's like the only time he was approving of me is like when he had something in his mind of me kind of like validating him in a way, like my achievements reflecting well on him. So when you're a little kid and your dad's like that when he's talking about that, but when he's at other times he's shouting and carrying on and getting angry, that what it programs into your mind is like, I have to do these things, otherwise I'm not going to be okay. I'm going to be not approved of by the people who take care of me. And that could mean I fucking die. That could mean I get abandoned. From back in our history, our, way back when we were evolving and all that shit, our minds are still programmed with that kind of thinking. And that's how kids think. It's all about like what's going to not get you abandoned. Because in the past, that was a real threat of you dying, basically. You had to be with your caregivers or whatever. And I remember this, I had like a drama teacher when I was in drama class, and like, I really loved drama class. So it always make people laugh and stuff. It was like lots of fun. But I had this crazy drama teacher who possibly I'll tell you more about later, but maybe not. It's kind of boring. But I was in some play or something, and she said, oh, I was watching, like with my husband, I was watching the play, and he was like, who's that? Who's that kid there? And she was like, oh, that's Lincoln. And he goes, you know that kid's gonna be famous, don't you? And like she gave me this like weird look, and it's like it might sound like just an offhanded comment, but I guess I was probably like 13, 14 then. And it kind of confirmed everything I was worried about, and like my heart just sank. It's like this pressure to perform. Like, people won't approve of you if you don't do these things and achieve these things. It's like, fuck, now I have to become fucking famous. It doesn't really make sense. Like, oh, some bitch that fucking taught at your school said it. Who gives a shit? But when you're that age, like, this shit gets stuck in your head, especially when it connects to stuff that you've been programmed with, like, from as far back as you can remember, from being a little kid. And that really did something to me. Like, that fucked me up. And I remember my mom told me there was this music teacher who I think turned out to be a piece of shit. I think he turned out to he had sex with an underage student or something. Um, so fuck him. But this was before that. I was in some play in school, and like everyone was saying like it was really good and like I did a really good job and stuff. And my mom told me that he said, well, right now he's a big fish in a small pond, but we'll see what happens when he's a small fish in a big pond. So I went to a small school, and he was basically saying like, okay, now like with this acting stuff, he's kind of the king of this small school. But when he gets out into the world, like with all its like competition and real shit, we'll see what he's actually able to do. Like that's such a, I'm sure he didn't mean it this way, but it's a kind of really mean thing to say about a kid. Why can't you just say I did a fucking good job in the play and like it was fun and entertaining? Why you have to like put all this pressure and shit? And she told me and she gave me this like weird look. And it was the same kind of moment. It's like, if you may or may not achieve this shit, it's gonna get really hard. And if you do, you're okay and you're valuable and lovable and all that. And if you don't, you're fucking not. That's how I took it. That's probably I probably exaggerated it in my young mind, but it linked back to all the stuff I had been programmed with from such a young age, and it got into my young brain and fucked me up. And if someone said something like that to me nowadays with my adult brain, I would just be like, well, fuck you. Who the fuck are you? But you can't always think that way when you're kind of a kid with your brain developing and all this stuff. And yeah, there was so like I said, my parents were really religious. We would always go to church. And I remember this guy at church saying like, "Oh yeah, most people just get some job to earn money and they never chase what they really want to do, but a few people actually chase what they really want to do, so they can kind of be outliers and succeed with that or whatever, you know?" Which is kind of a more encouraging thing to say, but it's just another thing that kind of stuck with me, a kind of similar moment. Not quite as negative, but it's like kind of be pressure to go on this particular path and like succeed on this particular really difficult path. And when I finally like left school, um, I did really good in like drama or whatever, drama studies. I did really, really good in English. I did well in English. I should say that now, shouldn't I? Um, and I decided to, um, I did audition for like a full-time drama school thing, but I didn't get in. They usually don't take people straight out of school. Some people they do, who are really awesome, but I didn't get into that. I didn't really think I was going to get into that, but I decided to, yeah, I think I just kind of auditioned for the experience, but I decided to major in writing. Like I wanted to write stories and poems and stuff and develop my weird fantasy world. And I would minor in theater. So I would do some acting, but it would be like, yeah, my minor. And I was at some like little birthday party or some shit, some gathering for like friends. And my friend's mom was like, "So, what are you gonna do like when you leave school?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm gonna major in writing and I'm gonna minor in theater." And she like her eyes wide and she looked at me. She was like, "Minor?" And like gave me this really disapproving look. And I was like, yeah. And like people around me, like even people that didn't know me that well, like my friend's mom, they would want me and they would put pressure on me to go into acting because like it's validating for them to say they know some like actor or something. And I was like, I didn't want to do that at that time. I wanted to concentrate on like writing. Writing was more like my thing. And she was like disapproving of me because of that. And this is probably like stupid. Like, I guess if I was leaving school, I was probably like 16, 17 by then. It shouldn't have affected me that much, but like that disapproval, even from someone I didn't know that well, my friend's mom, it really did affect me. I'm like, it put into my mind, if you don't do these certain things, like people are going to disapprove of you. It's like, yeah, I want to major in writing. Like, what's wrong with that? You know how hard acting is as a career? I don't think I even knew back then, but it's a valid point. And the stories and stuff I was writing were more personal than like acting as some character that's written by someone else. But yeah, this real disapproving look she gave me, like this reaction was, yeah, it really did fuck me up, even though it seems like a small thing. It's like, I'm telling you what I want to do. Can't you just be like, oh, that's great. Like, yeah, do what you want to do. Hope it goes well. No, you're like disapproving. Like, you're minoring in acting? Why the fuck are you majoring in it? Well, because I don't fucking want to, you bitch. Why would you react that way? So, it might sound stupid, but I'm just being honest about the things that affected me. Those are the things that affected me, whether it makes any sense or not. So I'm just honestly telling you about it, whether it's stupid or not. So the next thing I'll tell you about is there was another type of pressure put on me, which was probably even worse. And it's kind of like I guess you'd call it religious pressure. So my parents were very religious. They were really into Christianity, like being born again, all this fucking crap. And I guess nowadays you'd probably call them religious fundamentalists or something. And from really, really small, like from, only just being able to understand words, I was taught about God and Jesus and the devil, Satan, and like heaven and hell, and going to heaven versus going to hell. And my dad and my parents in general, and also I guess at like church and even in school, because I went to this lame kind of cultish little Christian school, which I fucking hated. There was a lot of talk of hell and avoiding going to hell and how bad hell was. And think of this, like, think of being a little kid and you're taught from like as far back as you can even talk or understand words. There's this specific thing that you need to believe, and there's this specific thing you need to be involved with. Because if you don't, or if you aren't, you go to a place where you burn forever in fire and unimaginable torture and pain and anguish. And it happens after you die, and once you're there, there's no way to get out at all, no matter what you do, you're just stuck there. And it lasts for eternity. It's eternal torment. My dad even always used to say that. He would go, eternal torment. Oh, this gives me the fucking shivers, gives me the fucking creeps, like even doing that, hearing that again. Yeah, it lasts for infinity. It's infinite pain, infinite suffering, infinite torture. And if you don't subscribe to this particular philosophy, which by the way makes no fucking sense at all, the actual philosophy and the stories, you will suffer eternal torment with no way out. As far back as I can remember, as far back as being a little kid, just learning to talk and form sentences and shit, this shit was drilled into me every day over and over again. So I mean, by default, I believed it very literally and strongly, and that's how it was taught to me. So I personally believe that teaching a kid like that, especially when there's no good reason to believe that to be true, that's a form of child abuse. And I think that fucked my mind up really, really badly. Um, and I think I was a really sensitive kid, and stuff affected me even more than normal. Um, which is probably why I'm telling you about these. Some of these things maybe don't sound like a big deal to you, but they were to me. So I grew up with this belief, and there was all this like religious pressure put on me. I had to keep believing this certain thing, or I was going to go to hell. But cracks started appearing in this thing, in these stories, in these philosophies. It didn't all always 100% make sense, even when I was young. And I remember I used to worry about reading something or hearing something or investigating something that would contradict Christianity, but maybe not be correct. And it would tempt me to stop believing the thing I was supposed to be believing. So it basically meant I couldn't think freely. Like I couldn't freely investigate. I didn't have intellectual and mental freedom. I had to guard myself against certain information, which doesn't really make sense when you think about it, because if something's true, why would any information threaten it? You know what I mean? If it's true, you should be able to investigate everything you possibly can, and this true thing will still come out as being true. Like nothing's going to contradict it because it's true. So you should have free reign. But my parents had this thing of really being afraid of being tricked, or afraid of like false information or false prophets or some shit, or false teachings. That's a term they used to use a lot. I'm just remembering is like false teaching. And yeah, it was like you couldn't just think freely, and you couldn't trust your own reasoning or your own standards or your own mind, and you couldn't come to your own decisions about things, not ethically and morally, and not in life in general. You couldn't trust or properly use your own mind. And yeah, I think this is another thing that like really fucked me up. And I'll tell you a story later on, like another time, that kind of demonstrates that pretty viscerally. So yeah, I had that stuff going on, and I think I developed this fear of just using my mind in a free way, and a fear of hell, going to hell, and like a fear of being tricked or misled by some information that would make me stop believing in Christianity. As stupid as that is, really. And my parents were into this weird stuff where they thought everything was demonic, or was the devil, or was the occult. And that was part of their thing of, not being able to think and investigate freely. Was they thought that demonic influences could get into your mind. Like if you do certain things, or read certain things, or do like go to certain places, or like get interested in certain topics, it can open up your mind, and then demons can come in, like quite literally. It gives these demons like an opening to like get into your mind. And once these demons, these demonic forces get into your mind, there's no way to get them out. Like they start influencing and distorting your thinking, and you kind of can't think straight after that. That's what they thought, and that's what they taught me. And there's no reason to believe that. Like that's not based on anything, except maybe some dumb shit in the Bible, and the Bible is just some fucking dumb old book. There's no reason to like believe everything in it. But that's what they taught me. And yeah, I was really scared of like demons and like being influenced by demonic forces and stuff, and them tricking me. Basically, they trick you into going into hell. Like they get into your mind, you do certain things, you read certain things, and so on. They get into your mind, they distort your thinking, they make you stop believing in Christianity, and then you go to hell. They basically tricked you into going into hell. That's what they believed happened, which is nuts. It's fucking insane. Like, there's no evidence to back that up. It's totally made up. But I really believed that because I was taught that from such a young age. I was like indoctrinated into this shit. And it really is pretty fucking fucked up when I think about it. And like when I saying it out loud now, all these years later, I really do. Just realizing how stupid and fucked up it really is. But I started to get interested in things that they said were demonic or the occult, which isn't very difficult because they said that about everything. um, they followed some guy, I forget his name, and he basically says everything is a cult or everything is the occult. Just some fucking religious whack job who would give talks and stuff. But when I was in year 5 or 6, I think it was, I was in this split class. Like they decided to torture a few smart, gifted kids, and put them in a class with like a few of us, and mainly kids a year older than us. So we had hardly any friends our own age. So we were alienated from the other people our age. And we only had a few of us, and then everyone was in like a different class. Thanks a lot for that, by the way. But so I only had like, obviously during like lunch and recess I could mix with like whoever, but actually in class, which is most of school, I only had these few kind of nerdy friends to hang out with, and like they kind of became more my friends than other kids because, you know, I was in class with them, which fucking sucked. They stitched me up with that. But this was when Pokemon was coming out, like Game Boys, you know, Game Boy, Game Boy Color, and Pokemon. And I thought Pokemon was so fucking cool. Like, I really like stuff like that. Like the the psychology of RPGs, like how you grind on something and you progress, like you gradually progress, but your progress kind of gets locked in, like just that really appealed to me. And yeah, Pokemon just sounded like so fucking cool. And I really liked it, and I would like draw my own like Pokemon and like make up my own version of like a slightly different version of like a Pokemon game. Um but my parents said Pokemon is demonic. You can't have a fucking Game Boy. You can't play Pokemon. That shit is demonic. It's the occult, and it'll let the demons into your brain, then they'll trick you into not believing in Christianity, and then you'll go to hell from playing this fucking Game Boy game. Yeah. Because we know that everyone who has ever played Pokemon is now demon possessed. We know that as a fact, so they were right about that for sure. But I guess I was 11 or 12 at this time, something like that. 10, 11, 12. And I was really sad about that because that is like all my the few nerdy friends I had in that shitty split class. That's what they would talk about all the time, was like Game Boys and Pokemon and Zelda. And yeah, my parents wouldn't let me get it because they said no, that's demonic, you can't have it. I think they did say you can get a Game Boy, but you can't get Pokemon. Um, but I was like, well, Pokemon is like 90% of it, so there's kind of no point. If I went back in time, I guess I would have gotten a Game Boy and just gotten like Zelda or whatever else was out. But the main thing was like I couldn't even talk to those friends about what they were talking about like all the time, because they were always talking about Pokemon and where they were up to with their Pokemon games. But I wasn't allowed to have that. So I would try to kind of listen and participate, but I only to a very small extent was able to know what they were talking about. I didn't have my own game going on or whatever. Um, so that's the low threshold of what they consider to be demonic. Even stuff like that, they think it's fucking demonic. Pokemon, come on. Little animals battling, like, and no one dies. They just faint and then they get better. Like, Pokemon is quite wholesome in my view. It's like you teach me and I teach you. We work together, we'll achieve our goals, blah blah blah. You know, it's quite wholesome and there are some quite nice lessons in Pokemon. And when you watch the Pokemon cartoon, it's like it's all about the nice guys who do the right thing are the heroes, and then Team Rocket and Gary who are kind of criminals and assholes trying to steal and take shortcuts and be mean to people. They're like the villains. Like there's good moral lessons in Pokemon. I mean, come on. But no, that was fucking demonic, and like that just shows you the low threshold of like what can be demonic. I'm not sure if my parents ever actually said this, but these people that they used to kind of follow, who said everything was like a cult or everything was demonic, they even said the fucking Smurfs were demonic. Because they said, well, the Smurfs are blue and they have black lips, so they're supposed to actually be like reanimated corpses or something. And firstly, what? Where did you get that from? You just made that up. Well, just because they're fucking blue, they're supposed to be corpses? Corpses aren't even fucking blue. And if it's a show about zombies, you know, they're walking around like having little adventures in this village. I don't actually know what happens in the Smurfs, but they're in this little village with like toadstools and stuff and having little adventures, but they happen to be zombies. Who gives a shit? How does that make it bad? How does that make it demonic? You know what I mean? It doesn't make any sense, but the logic of my parents and these people they learned this shit from was basically like, if you expose yourself in any way to something that they say is the occult or is demonic, it just gives demons an opening to get into your head, and then you're fucked after that. You can't even think straight. Like, the demons are influencing you from the inside. So it's like you watch the Smurfs, you go to fucking hell. So fucking stupid. But as I grew up, I started getting interested in other stuff that, surprise, surprise, happened to be demonic and the occult. Martial arts happened to be demonic as well. And any form of meditation is demonic too. And that became relevant later, which I'll tell you about another time. But I thought martial arts was so cool, like you know, like kung fu and stuff. I'm like, oh, it's so cool. You know, with most adolescents think that, most adolescent boys think that. And I was like, I want to do martial arts. I want to do some kung fu or something. And my parents were like, no, like that's demonic. That's demons will get into you. That's the occult. You can't do that. And they were saying how like the Shaolin, I'm not sure if all that Shaolin stuff is real. You know, how they can like balance on a spear and not get cut, or like, you know, they can like break stuff over their arms. Like, I don't know if that is that real, or is that like scam stuff, or what? Does it just require heaps of training? I don't know. But they said that was demonic powers, and they said doing kung fu and martial arts is demonic. It's the occult and exposes you to demonic influences, and you can't do it. And it made me sad that I couldn't do this thing I wanted to do, and they said it was evil. But it also kind of depressed me, because I was like, well, what can humans do then? Like, can humans actually do anything cool? And my mom was like,
They can play sports. They can play sports. That's what they can do.
I was just like, that's fucking lame. Now I don't care. But at that age, that really depressed me, because I was like, well, the coolest and best thing humans can do is just play fucking soccer and cricket and shit. That's fucking lame. So all martial arts type shit is fucking demonic, and like, you can't just do that normally? That doesn't make any sense. And it really did depress me. And I'll tell you one story. I must have been a little bit older, like I was a teenager. And me and a friend, I think like a female friend, I think we went to some kind of Indian restaurant. It's like this Indian restaurant where you can get the food pretty cheap and stuff, but they want to kind of promote their weird little movement or something. Maybe it's Hare Krishnas or something like that, or something similar. The food's cheap, but they want to give you fucking pamphlets and stuff. So we went there. It was really good. And they gave me some funny little, like, colorful pamphlet about whatever their thing is, some kind of Hinduism thing. And I brought it home, and I guess I must have showed my mom or whatever. And I wasn't taking it seriously at all. Like, I wasn't actually going to believe it. I was just like, aha, look at this. It's pretty cool what they gave me, this colorful little brochure. I want to read it and see what kind of crazy stories and shit these people believe. I was 0% taking it seriously. I wasn't going to, like, become a fucking Hindu, start believing this shit and become a fucking Hare Krishna or some shit. But my mom took it off me. She wouldn't even let me read it. She was like, no, you can't have this. I was like, what? What? I can't even read it? She's like, no. And she wouldn't let me have it. And I was like, what the fuck is going on? So this was the level to which it's like, you can't trust your own mind. You can't freely investigate. You can't even read this pamphlet because it might mislead you. And then you end up going to hell. It's like, if I have my reasoning faculties and I can, like, think about things and like decipher evidence and weigh up evidence and options and things, I should be able to read whatever I want. Like, but they thought, like, no, you can't trust your own mind. And she wouldn't even let me read this thing. She took it away from me, put it up on like a high, she hid it in like a high shelf or some shit. Why don't you just throw it away? I remember her hiding it. Like, why would you hide it? Why wouldn't you just throw it away if you don't ever want me to have it? But yeah, and it was such a weird fucking moment. But it kind of demonstrates that's what it was like. That's my whole growing up was weird shit like that. And this mistrust of your own mind and your own reasoning processes. And your inability to make your own decisions and things like that. And yeah. And they were like this with kind of like quote unquote bad stuff as well. I remember I used to love going to the library, and one time I brought home this comic book, and in the comic book, I don't know what it was Batman or some shit. This person, like, is in a spaceship, I think it was a spaceship, and they crash the spaceship, and there's broken glass and there's like blood in the comic. And they were like, blood splattered faces. Do you think this is what God would want you to fill your mind with? And I'm just like, well, he just crashed his spaceship. It's just a comic book. Like, calm down. And they were like, oh, this is so bad. It's terrible. And they like took it off me and like had to take it back. I couldn't read it and all this shit. And it's so funny because not even that many years later, they contradicted all this stuff because we didn't have TV growing up, and TV was like more of a big deal back then, and we didn't have our own computers or anything. But they started watching, CSI and like NCIS and all this shit, where they were literally like, I would come home and I'd be like, Jesus, what are they watching? And they're watching some murder mystery, and like I'd hear people like screaming and like being shot and being carved up, like murder and like thriller movies and shit. They'd just watch all that shit, just whatever was on TV. And I was like, not even that many years ago, you were taking a comic book away from me because someone had crashed their spaceship and they had like blood on them. Like, so fucking stupid and contradictory. We had like grown up a bit more by then, but it wasn't even that many years later. And they were like, let's just watch every fucking murder mystery on TV. Let's watch people getting fucking shot in the head. Just a few years ago, we, were so against anything like that, but now we don't give a fuck. Makes no fucking sense. And that really actually pissed me off because I was like, you were so serious about this stuff not very long ago, and now you don't give a fuck. Like, you changed my whole life because of this shit. Took it so seriously. Now you don't even give a fuck. They didn't give a fuck about any of it. Granted, I was a bit older, but if it's fucking demons, it shouldn't make a difference. They didn't give a shit about Pokemon. They didn't give a shit about comics with blood splattered faces. They didn't give a shit about watching fucking murders being enacted on fucking crime shows and shit and horror movies and shit. They didn't give a shit about any of it. So really makes no sense. And all that had changed was some time had passed and they were like, oh, we don't care about that anymore. So yeah, it's not as bad as having the crap beaten out of you. It's not as bad as not having food to eat or a place to sleep. It's not as bad as being fucking raped and molested and stuff, but it does something to you. All this shit does something to you. And I'm just trying to explain like what it was like for me. Um, so I'll tell you about one more thing. Um, this it might not make sense why I'm telling you this until a later episode, but when I was about 15 or something like that, I remember I was like I can't remember why, but for some reason I was in my boxer shorts, and I don't know what I was supposed to be showing her, but I was showing my sister something, maybe how high I could jump. I don't fucking know. But I was jumping up and down in my underwear, like in my boxer shorts, and I was like, and she made this comment. She was like, I think maybe you need to buff up. And I was like, I don't know. Actually, I don't know how old I was. Pretty young. But she was like, kind of just criticizing my body, I guess, criticizing what my body looked like. And I was like, maybe I should buff up. Like that got into my head, and uh, I seem to remember it was like when I was 15, but maybe I was younger. I started working out. Like I was just a normal kind of skinny kid. I wasn't fat or anything. I was just skinny and normal looking. Um, yeah, probably a lot more on the skinnier side. But yeah, I started getting into working out. First, I think I started running. Then I started lifting weights. Like I had some rusty old weights that my dad used to have. I would just take them and just kind of like, do random shit with them and do like push-ups and sit-ups and stuff. And I continued on with this because it made me feel great. But I started getting props at school for, we used to call it buff, being buff. They're like, wow, Lincoln, you're getting buff. I'm like, oh, thanks. Like, it's another thing that I got props for, like being creative and those other things I explained. And when I was, I guess it would have been like when I first started uni, uh, I started going to the gym and like working out a bit more properly. And yeah, I did get pretty buff. I had like pretty big muscles and stuff. Not as big as some people, but you could definitely tell. And I really, I got props from that, from like, people I knew from school and stuff. They're like, Jesus, we can see that through your jumper. You're getting fucking so buff, man. That's how he used to talk. But yeah, I can't tell you the whole story now, but it became another thing that started as something that made me feel good, the endorphins and I'm enjoying working out and stuff. But it became like another form of judgment and pressure later on, and it fucked me up later on. People basically judging, like one thing is good, one thing is bad, one thing we approve of you, another thing we don't. And it did really, like, I had like six pack abs, I had like big muscles, big biceps and all that. It became a big part of my identity because it was like there wasn't always that much in my life that I would like get reinforcement for, that I would get props for and stuff, but that was one thing that I did. So it became kind of important to me, probably to an unreasonable degree. And I was so insecure, like from my childhood and stuff, that any reinforcement that I got about anything, I would really latch onto. But yeah, so this has been an odd like episode. There's just a lot of kind of background shit I wanted to talk to you about that I wanted to tell you. And not sure exactly how the next episode is gonna like span, but I'll probably tell you more about some like more specific events, and some of it will probably be a bit more dramatic. But I feel like all this I needed to tell you all this kind of like background shit for anything to really make sense with like the next part of the story. So that's it for this episode. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope maybe you learned something or got something out of it. Thanks heaps for listening, and I'll talk to you again next time.